it feels like two opposing styles of gameplay. Granted, genetics is on Gep, so maybe not the most early game-oriented warriors that we've ever seen. But this is a team that really does like to run it down and hold W. And the Dragons, on the other side, have been, whether it's on purpose or not, right? Whether you want to talk about their sieges or not, the games have gone longer for them. And they've had to kind of showcase and prove themselves constantly as a late-game composition and players.
Yeah, it's just been difficult to watch the actual siege, I think. Whether it be them defending or pushing in, the Jade Dragons, they don't have an issue getting early leads, right? They don't have an issue establishing pressure around the map. It is when it comes to going into Phoenixes and retreating afterwards. How long do they stick around? So something I'm sure they talked about. They're coming into Finals Sunday here. I'm sure that was discussed at some point between their last game and now. They're going up against the Oni Warriors, who have been looking explosive, for lack of a better term. And they've got a lot of their key gods, right? We talked a lot about Sot in the previous sets. On this Thor, I think going to have a very good look, just because, a more damage. You can be so impactful with those ultimates, those rotations, which are just really big right now. I'll say solo lane has a greater hold on the meta than I would have expected. A lot of time they're just sort of delegated to sitting over in solo lane, no rotations, just farming until at the very least minute 12 when that beacon spawns in. But there's been a lot of early teleports to force fights, sometimes 3-4 man just death squads if you can make it work. So I think getting a Thor this early, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? He has the ability to teleport over, use Anvil of Dawn. You could teleport to mid lane, hammer, use your ult, and you're almost in duo at that point. You could be there in a second.
God, the beacon, if you didn't have it there, there were times where you wouldn't see solo laners until they were level 20. Maybe more recently, like level 16, 18, something like a little earlier than that, but realistically, it wasn't until we started seeing fights on the right-hand side very consistently for a Fire Giant, so it was, 15, 18 minutes for things like that, and the Pyromancer. Now, I mean, he specifically, like you said, with the beacon, it kind of gets him out there a little bit earlier. But Nika, I think in particular, and I don't want to say it Sot for this game, but Sot on 4 in general has definitely left this lane very often. In fact, we've gotten pretty much the opposite on the other side, where now we don't see the carries until they hit some of those late game spikes, just because the builds, especially early on, depending on where you're at, don't let you hit super hard. Right now, you need to hit hard. If you're Pagon, you've got some damage, but Lasbra's got a little bit more in the help from Dardes. And first blood goes over to the Dragon's jungler. Can he escape? And can they find Panatom? Taunt is good. Little extra damage from the Hera. Panatom's going to keep the chase up. Goes deep into the jungle. Has the clone to teleport to or away from, if you can't quite get there. It seems like the chase is not going to work out. Lasbra, oh no, backing under the tower. A little bit of damage, but just off the mark from Panatom. And Lasbra's going to get back with first blood in hand.
Yeah, unfortunate for Pagon. He had a decision to make. Do I dash it and look for this 1v1, or do I wait for Panatom to show up? Maybe he thought Panatom would have been there a bit sooner. Could have Thunder crashed away, but Raiju also wasn't up. That was the big difference maker. If he Thunder crashes in and has Raiju, could be looking at a kill opportunity. Lasbra's here, though, and Nika just wants to try to confirm the blue. Is not going to be able to grab it. But do you chase? With a blink in from Circad, could be trying to catch out the hammer, but Sot makes a good call, goes in for the stun, and should be able to get his blue buff as well. So first blood going the way of Lasbra, definitely a good look. He's starting Soul Eater if you want to start stacking as quickly as possible. Getting first blood, definitely a good way to do that. Still, we're seeing how Raijin getting off to a slow start might be able to affect the DPS of this character. I don't think that Hera has like this fantastic matchup. Yeah, you have a lot of ways to interrupt Thunder Crash, but it's not like just dropping Argus on a Tycho Drums is going to be the instant one-shot, right? That's not really where Hera's burst comes through. You got to hit Argus into that Royal Assault, into the rest of the kit, just try and chain everything together. And Raiju can be very slippery in Tycho Drums. He's a bit slower, but yeah, it's been changed throughout the years. 75% movement speed, I believe, lost, so he still does have a bit of that zoom potential if used properly.
There's also that weird Hera balance whenever Dardes plays it, which is exclusively the Dardes buff.
Yep.
Which is that anybody else is not locking in Hera. Nobody's playing her. But for some reason, Dardes not only can play her, but plays her incredibly well and looks good each time. And so that's really the thing you have to overcome is just knowing that, like you said, all of those little intricacies in the matchup, like, oh, you have to do this to get those wins. Dardes, a majority of the time, is doing those and able to find that balance. And so an early first blood over to the Dragon, specifically throwing it into the jungle of all things. And it's a Soul Eater, super early on from Lazarus. Not something that I feel like I'm at least used to seeing as the first item on Circuit. Do you like this kind of, I guess, deviation from the build, or is it just kind of the new meta? Maybe we'll hold that as Pagon thrown back in, and that's the combo you wanted to see, Shelly. Maybe overdone, but Lazarus got the damage, and Dardes has the finisher, and it's a second kill onto the mid laner.
5 seconds until those beads were up. If Pagon played patiently for 5 more seconds, or somehow reaction ulted that blink in from Lazarus, would have been fine, but did not have the CC immunity, and that's an easy chain stun. Last breath right into Argus. Plenty of CC chain, and that's Raijin's biggest weakness, right? He does not have that much to try and get away. His escape isn't going to be able to get channeled. So Lazarus is a beautiful play, knowing those beats timers and setting up that gank onto Pagon, trying to make his life just a little bit worse. And that's really the only aggression we've seen so far. We've been talking about this Circuit and how she has the ability to get active early, and Lazarus using that to his advantage. Oh my gosh, so much damage though from Sod onto Lazarus. I don't think a tower dive is going to be in their future, but still, that blue buff certainly owned by the Warriors.
Metroid getting an impale against the wall, has to use the beats. Smite goes in for the root, knock up good from Vote, but that's going to be all they wrote over on left. And it is, I think, like you said, important to see what Sot's been able to do. Every time Lazarus shown up over there, it's been a good wall. This last time with good damage, a blue buff invade, and successful steal from the Warriors. And so at least finding some successes in the only quantifiable way that there are when there's no kills on the board for the Warriors over on right, and in terms of experience, and mainly trying to keep Nika locked down. Unfortunately, they cost 2 kills and just a little over 1,000 gold here 6 minutes in. So really, it's not this overwhelming runaway despite 2 early kills for the Dragons. You know, you had mentioned it with the bead timers in mid. Lazarus, though, has done nothing but prove how massive of a threat he is, can be, and presumably will continue to be over at least the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, now we get to see where this build's going. You were talking about how you haven't seen the first item, Soul Eater. I tend to agree, right? It's usually Jotuns into Soul Reaver or Crusher, you know, you get some extra damage online. But Soul Eater into a breastplate, definitely looking towards a more tanky build on this Circuit, trying to just do, I guess, full-on CC and hope the team has the rest of the damage follow-up. Circuit's taken a lot of changes over the years, used to be able to just build full tank and still do crazy amounts of damage. Lazarus, if he wants to still have that one-shot capability late game, is certainly going to have to itemize into some more DPS as this build continues. But one thing he will be is annoying, right? If you're trying to survive, Netroid, Panatom, and SOT, this build is certainly going to help you out.
And you know what? Annoying. That's the key word in gameplay that really does get frustrating and something the Warriors are going to have to deal with. Because it's not just the Circuit, it's the Ganesh too. So you have to imagine the silences, the oppressive nature that the Dragons are going to be bringing continue to be strong. But Charlie, right now, it's still just the standard setup. Nothing too crazy for them. Beads back up on Pagon. Lazarus hasn't been active with that ult just yet. And considering what we've seen, I actually really like this. The movement on the map from the Dragons right now is really just high focus to get Nika a blue buff because he's lost the last 2. And so a little bit of focus on the right-hand side of the map, but Lazarus, with this build and what we've been talking about, it does feel like it would maybe slow down the potential of hey, I'm going to come in and we're going to kill Pagon 6 times and just make sure this Raijin doesn't exist. And instead it's shifted to much like you said, hey, I'm going to go in, I'll throw him back to you, somebody else has got to kill him now.
And that's the big difference. I mean, Lazarus isn't trying to be that solo agent. He's not trying to be the hard carry of his team. He's saying, if Dardes is here, yeah, we'll fight. Yeah, I can go in. I can set up for a kill. If Dardes is not here, someone else better be, or there's not going to be any action coming our way. Leading into about 8 minutes in, close to 9, that beacon, maybe the first time we actually see a grouping from these teams. I mean, both Nika and SOT have the ability to make those clutch rotations. Their teleport is down for now, but keeping it up, right? Keeping the cooldown available right when that beacon spawns in has been what a lot of these players do. Being being able to teleport to a ward even if you upgrade it and try and make an impact. The question is, do you value this new beacon change? We've been talking about it a bit this weekend so far. No longer getting that movement speed, which is a very sought-after stat, but you actually get damage, which can be very helpful. Like a mini Discordia passive for your whole team if you're able to capture those beacons. That's the way to think about it. Seems a little bit more valuable, right? Makes sense that these solo laners are trying to come through and rotate in for these beacon spawns. But with farm so important on the map, and like you said, Nika was losing a couple of those blue buffs, you want to make sure you know exactly what you're losing before you go in for a rotation like that. If you're missing a blue buff spawn, your wave, some back camps, do you really care if you're doing 1% extra damage?
Now the thing is, and maybe we'll talk about the beacon instead when it comes back up, because it's a Gold Fury start. Dharmic Pillars drops. Netroid spots this out, throws out a couple autos. The Impale is just a little too soon, though. Dragons, an early rotation towards left, and a very small commitment. Get the Gold Fury and extend their lead up to 2,000 gold.
I like that play from Netroid. He had the choice of going in for the Desert Fury or just an auto attack and an Impale. Could have done enough damage if he timed it correctly, but it was a low stakes play, right? He didn't have to do the CC immunity. The ult does tick damage at that point, so goes in, does his best, does not grab the steal, but at the very least shows some face. And that's a great start for the Jade Dragons. Their issue has never really been this objective play, but they said, hey, we've got a small lead just due to farm across the map. Let's group up, use these Dharmic Pillars, go in for an easy shred onto the objective and get out for free. That's the big difference, right? It wasn't like the Oni Warriors tried to find any sort of aggression afterwards. The objective is done, and they retreat. We have to talk about this matchup a bit. I think this is the main reason that Genetics even looked towards the Geb. That Stone Shield into Circuit, into Ganesh, has so much implications. That cleanse helps out. Pagon never has to use his beads in that situation because it's just a quick cleanse, quick shield to get out of trouble. If Genetics builds some cooldown, it could be up just about any moment you need. It's gonna stop at least one clutch CC in a team fight. So if you're hoping for the follow-up, if you're hoping for the CC, sometimes Genetics can just stop that in its tracks.
As long as I'm reading the ability or the ingredients properly, it does look like that's a recipe for Bow. So cooldown, it's gonna be there for Genetics, at least a little bit, teensy bit, right? As he does.
He's got a sturdy stew online. Yeah, the Bow's the purple one.
You're right. Charlie, I need to lean forward more when I'm talking about the Bow, huh?
He's gonna be sturdy.
Well,
though.
you know what? He's gonna be sturdy, man. He's gonna be earthy, rocky. And that ruins the entire point that I was about to make. The good question, or the good point, though, and good answer is, maybe a saving grace, a little life raft for me, is the beacon's coming up in about 10 seconds. Mike's already standing on it, and we were talking about it. You had mentioned that it's a smaller buff, but it's more damage-oriented. Move speed no longer on there. The other thing about it is it stacks up to, what, 6 times now?
If you're going that long,
If you're going that long, if you can make it all the way there. The Titans technically can get released more than once. And most of the time, we've only seen them get to that third capture. Right now, Nika's rotated in. Nika's taking a lot of poke in the process of trying to fight for this. The beacon, halfway charged here for the Warriors. And with Nika knocked away, that's going to be enough for the Dragons to decide to get out of there. But Panatom is not content to let this lie. Instead, looks for the solo laner in the jungler. In the jungle. Won't quite find him. Nika dashes away. Will survive with their life. Still 2 kills on the board, but the beacon goes the way of the Warriors.
Yep, nice rotations through. Nika realized, wait a second, I have no magical defense, and I just met Pagon, who immediately gets him down to 40% HP, forces out that dazzling offensive defensively, makes him have to get out of there. And of course, Sot realized there might be a tower, some tower pressure. Lazarus wasn't even there, right? The Circuit heads over to solo lane, just tries to find some extra farm, says, guys, that beacon, probably not happening. Good luck, don't die for it type of deal. And Sot has to teleport back over just to make sure his tower is not pressured. But now the Oni Warriors are showing some signs of life. They can step forward, they can fight if they get the opportunity. So with this Oni Fury spawning in, aggressive positioning, or at least get some ward coverage down, right? The Oni Warriors have that position. I was wondering if Genetics was going to go towards the ward chalice. He's done it a few times.
Yeah.
But maybe he is focused more so on trying to upgrade, you know, his build. He's got the ore items online. He's got the sovereignty. He's got the Gauntlet of Thieves. He just wants his team to be standing proud when they're next to him, having some extra protections and, you know, being able to survive some of this damage.
And I want to turn an oopsie daisy on my part into an actual question, which is just, Do you like the sturdy stew on Geb, or do you think it would have been better if it was cooldown?
So in my mind, the big difference maker in some of these builds, and the reason that I thought Ganesha would be a little lower on the tier list, is if you can go this upgraded meditation with Bountiful Bow, with Horn Shard, and you're getting immense, like Ares, for example, he can do that very well. If Ares blinks and hits some chains, pops his med, hits some more chains, he's got his bow, hits some more chains, right? That just flows so well.
Yeah.
Geb doesn't have that many spammable abilities, right? The shield is not coming off cooldown quick enough to really benefit from that sort of build, and I think Genetics realizes that. He's not going like Chronos Pendant Meditation Bow. He's just going for auras and tank items, saying, hey, my one shield will be clutch enough. If you look at Mike, he actually went for that upgraded meditation. He's got the Bountiful Bow, but Ganesha doesn't have that many spammable abilities either, right? Yeah, he's got Turn of Fate. If you get 2 ohms off in a fight, that's pretty cool. But you're hoping Dharmic Pillars is enough to engage or disengage, and that's it. Your spamming of abilities, I don't think you get too much value from. So I guess we'll have to see if that meditation comes in clutch for Mike. It's going to be quite some time before he's got his Bountiful Bow online, but that's kind of the benefit of these supports. It already takes a while for them to get 6 slotted anyway, so you're not going to have to sell that item for such a long time.
I know the cloak upgrade here for Med doesn't affect your ultimate, but the most spammable ability on Ganesh might actually be Dharmic Pillars. It's such a low cooldown for an ult. And it's so nice to be able to throw out. We're probably going to see one here. Zony Fury started up by the Warriors. They're going to go ahead and start doing the DPS. Warriors secure that one, no problem. Pyromancer, in the meanwhile, was split between Dardes and Nika. They picked that one up on the right-hand side to go trade objective for objective. Maintain just shy of a 2,000 gold lead. And Trelly, we haven't seen too much fighting from him. After Lasberg got that second kill within the range of Pagon's beads, neither of these teams have really been looking for an engage.
They haven't. The Jade Dragons, no, they didn't want to step forward there, and Sot makes a great wall. I mean, if you called it out. Mike wanted to drop Dharmic Pillars. He wanted to go in for a steal there, but gets stunned immediately. Can't walk up, right? Just well-timed. Sot said, hey, even though this is a pretty low-stakes steal, I'm going to make sure that we have our DPS here. And it can't come through. Nika teleports in. Immediately gets an Argus out just to try and defend this tier 1 tower. That's a little something any of you can do in your games at home. Teleport, you're always going to land in that exact spot, and if you see someone teleporting in, try and get some damage off. Nika maybe wants to go in there if he doesn't get chunked by a wall and some Raijin damage. This is also a good play, keeping Argus around. After Argus is dropped, you want him to die as quickly as possible so he's back on cooldown. But they're not killing him, right? Sot's just tanking this up, forcing Dardes to keep Argus out for a bit. Now, it just now goes on cooldown. And that means Dardes is not going to have that drop for quite some time. And it's a pretty good self-peel tool.
Self-peel tool, team fight tool. We've seen, I mean, that small, the knockup on instant, right? You jump in, the damage that comes in feels like sometimes it's the entirety of the kit that Hera needs. The rest of the damage is always really nice. Unfortunately for Vote, damage is getting thrown their way. Up into the ult. And does the Jing Wei thing. Survives with a disengage over towards the speed buff. Still an invade on the purple from the Warriors as they get aggressive over there. And aggressive is the way it's starting to feel right now, right? In the very beginning of this game, you didn't have too much. We had mentioned the Serket being early game. Didn't see anything. I mean, you're looking at Geb over in the long lane. Pagon's really the one guy, it feels like, between him and Panatom that could have done some damage. But again, we're met with the Serket on the other side. Now, the Warriors are feeling a lot more confident. Beacon comes back in. They're standing on it. No issues. They're going to get the second capture of the game as well. And we've seen small little mechanical moments from them. But Shelly, it really does feel like it's building up to something massive. And the Warriors, like the amount of damage, the poke they throw onto Nika, the CC chains that they've showcased so far. We haven't gotten to see some of the big plays, but I can already imagine how they're going to unfold.
I mean, most team comps that are built like this, for the Oni Warriors that is can you keep Pagon alive, right? Can you just keep this Raijin free casting? And I'm looking at the damage on the side of the Jade Dragons because Lasberg goes full tank, right? This looks like a Ratatoskr build in my mind. Sure, you've got a lot of CC, but the benefit of building this on Rat is he's got the flurry, he can shred protections, he can still do essentially true damage if he's enough to get enough prot shred off, whereas Serket, yeah, you've got damage, you've got built-in crit, but if you're building this tanky, you're hoping that you have follow-up. Dardes is rarely going to be able to get within range, right? If Dardes is stepping up that far, he's usually getting absolutely ran down by Panatom. Set does not care about Hera. he can just absolutely chase her down with Kingslayer if given the opportunity to. So if the Jade Dragons are trying to just deal with Pagon with that combo, right, with Lasbra blinking to the backline and Dart as his follow-up, it's going to be difficult if Pagon is in the right position, if he's able to stand clear, and especially if Genetics is nearby, right? The shell on top of that stone shield, a lot of tools to try and keep him safe. And look at this, Lasbra, Dardes, and Nika all hovering around Pagon, right? If you can't tell who this comp was designed to kill, look no further than this red buff. Invade.
Well, Dardes drops down the Argus. Damage is good. The rest of the team, look, you had 3 guys that were waiting to help and jump in with you. And unfortunately for Dardes, it's just a kit drop and retreat. Pagon's going to be able to survive, but is knocked back to base. Pyromancer's back up. That's what the Dragons are focused on and fighting for. They have a small 4v4, I guess 4v3 right now, but they've lasted long enough for Pagon to walk back from base. Argus, as you had mentioned, still on the board right now, and therefore not on cooldown, so Dardes is going to have to wait even longer before that comes back around. And Trelly, it felt like it was about to be at least a 3rd kill for the Dragons. Maybe it still could be. Lasbra is still lurking over in the left side jungle, but they're not looking for the fight just yet. Instead, it's the Warriors, again, looking for some aggressive positioning. Pyromancer, Primal Fury, pressure on right, maybe versus pressure on left. Nika's knocking on a tier 2 as we speak. And so if you're the Warriors, do you have an objective in your mind that is the next thing to go for?
It seems like trading either Pyro for Primal Fury has been the call so far. I think the only Warriors would prefer the Primal Fury just because it does give you more value. But the Jade Dragons are the ones with the lead. They should feel confident stepping forward. I don't want to see Nika go to the right. He just head back to base. I want to see him posture towards the left, right? That is the usual call. But it seems like Lasbra and Dardes want to go in for like a cheeky Pyromancer while still having pressure. They want both objectives if possible. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the easiest call to make though, because Sat's here. He's got some ward coverage down. At the very least, he's going to know if this is pulled. A slow game so far. Or 2-0 at 21 minutes. Not for lack of trying. There was an attempted red buff invade, but Pagon knows, hey, beads, Thunder Crash away. I'm not going to stick around and fight again.
Simultaneously, not for lack of trying and for lack of trying,
right?
Like there have been moments where it could have racked up. We're talking like maybe 2 extra kills on the board total. Definitely tower killing that has been going on. All 6 still standing for the Dragons. Tier 1 in left, Tier 1 in right, gone on the side of the Warriors. Most important thing that means right now, Beacon, when it does come back up, Titans will go down mid. The map stays in its current state, but Pyromancer is the objective.
Lasbra in the back.
Do you yield is the question. The answer is no. Lasbra goes in. Good taunt. Great Argus. And the damage is there for the Dragons immediately onto Pagon. Nika gets into the back and gets the kill. Panatom alone. Up into the sky is the Thor, but it does not look like anyone's going to be aggressing from the Warriors. Fall back for Panatom. Same for Sot. And the same there for Netroid. The damage dealers are gone, and the Dragons get to start a tear down mid, take down the tier 1, go right back for the Pyro.
If you were curious, 8 seconds this time before Pagon speeds were back up. It's razor thin margins. If this man played slightly defensively, just for 10 seconds, he would be 0-1 right now. And honestly, his first death was because he got too aggressive. And Pagon was dialing it back like 2 notches on the volume meter. He'd probably be 0-0 right now. There'd be no kills, and it'd be all right. But the Jade Dragons have a composition designed to CC chain Orison. That's what they're going for. It's worked out 3 times in a row, and it's going to continue. You only get 1 pair of beads. You cannot rely on genetics to shield every single time there's just too much CC. By the way, Dardes didn't even drop Argus there. Like it was like needed. It did end up getting that much value, but there was a lot of damage coming in from Vote as well, who's just a full shred Jingwei. No crit built into this Jingwei build just yet. It's just the passive crit from his 2.
And that shred, it's worked out wonderfully. Beacon, 3rd capture, goes to the Dragons. After knocking down that tier 1 in mid, tower health and the structure health means the Titans are going to be over on the left. And Trelly, this is actually where it gets really interesting. Pyro's gone. Primal's up. Fire Giant's up. You're 23.5 into the game. You've got 2 runic bombs if you're the Dragons. It's an interesting dynamic to me, at least macro play, to see what kind of decisions they want to make around the Titans when they start moving, and maybe around the objectives in general. Dharmic Pillars drop down. Primal Fury killed off by Vote. And that's going to be another one to balance things out. Suddenly it's not, hey, we can get Primal and a Titan. It's, okay, well, the Titan's on left, Fire Giant's on right. And I don't think you step away from a Fire Giant fight if you can afford it. Panatom stunned in the jungle by Nika. Damage and Shred is there. CC chain good, but the shield strong enough this time to make sure Panatom gets out of there. And Genetics showing us what this Geb can do.
Yep, greedy play there. I mean, Panatom did not have to Aegis. He could have just beats the initial ult, and he would have been able to get out of range, but he thought it was just Nika, or maybe that Lazarus was too far away. Decides to hold the beats just to see what happens, and then ends up having to use beats and Aegis. That takes a lot of Set's die potential away. I was talking about how Dardes can't step up to a Set, but at this point, with no relics and Panatom having 3 items, he would just destroy Dardes, right? I mean, sorry, Dardes would destroy Panatom, exactly. If Panatom is teleporting in, Sandstorm, it's Argus, Royal Assault, Silence, or Polymorph, you're dead. Like, that is the end of that combo. You're not getting the heal, you're not surviving that long. It's just not enough, especially because of this build that Dardes has went for. Double Flat Pen, throw an Obsidian Shard, and he already has the Book of Thoth and Sands of Time upgrade. That Pendulum is going to be stacking so well off the extra mana. This Hera is a threat, and the damage numbers are proving that. Top in the lobby by a large margin.
Now maybe it is because I'm not a chef. I know some recipes do take longer to cook than others, but it feels like the junglers right now, Panatom with this CC chain. Oh my god. I mean, you were calling for it, right? If you can lock him down, lock him down.
Man, Mike with the Dharmic Pillars into the throw, that was just so clean. Lazarus gets the CC chain, says, hey, anyone got follow-up? Mike said, I got you, bro. Throw him right into the Dharmic Pillars. That was a nasty combo.
Well, now Mike in a little bit of trouble. Only has the dash to use, goes forward. Argus dropped, and it's on to Sot. Has to go up into the sky. Pagon getting pressured by Nika, uses the ult for CC immunity, gets some damage out there, but they're just chasing down the Raijin, and they find exactly what they need. Now the leap forward, the Dragons want a little more. Force Netroid to fall back, ult through the wall, get some damage spread on the Lazarus. Sot goes in, gets one, and he has a great opportunity to find a little bit more, but the cooldowns, they're just not there. The hammer, the stun, it can't go through. He can't survive. 4 killed off by the Dragons. It's a 7-1 lead, and Trelly, it's a Fire Giant.
It better be at this point. While the Titan was pushing in to the left side, Phoenix, that fire should be going down for absolute free. If they try and wait for Lazarus, they got to watch out for Panatom going in for the steal, so they can't make that play. At the very least, you're getting fire on 4. And it's just such a well-executed composition. Again, they're going for picks, right? They have Lazarus going in constantly, looking for beads. Once they get him down, Pagon, Panatom, they've been the target so far. This time it was Panatom. Easy pull into a pick. Let's go for Fire Giant. The Oni Warriors try and step up. And once again, the weaknesses of Raijin have been shown. Pagon tries to dash away from Nika, still dies in the middle of the Thunder Crash because that's how much damage this Amaterasu can do with this build. You think Nika's scared right now even though there's 5 Oni Warriors in the map? Nope, free tier 2, and he's able to head on back for absolute free.
And the fact that they've gotten so many Pyros, they had 3 Runic Bombs in their pockets. Nika drops 1, no issue. Kills off the tier 2 on right, opens up a Phoenix opportunity. And then you still got 2, 1 on the dual lane. And I know Mifflin is very adamant about why you, a hunter, maybe in this case for Vote, would have a Runic Bomb when you're not getting close enough most of the time to use it, but the way the Dragons have been playing, he's got plenty of Space Makers. And so we'll have to see. And Trelly, it's just this response. I mean, the Dragons, the CC chain, you know, you had talked about it like, okay, you've got some beads, you've got a shield, you've theoretically got some ways to control it. But the Dragons' timing has been just so on point that there's nothing the Warriors have been able to do in response. I
mean, if history is an indication, sometime in the next 35 seconds, Pagon's going to be blinked on. At this point, it's probably going to be a little bit differently. Now the Jade Dragons have Fire Giant, so they can just step in and go in for Phoenix without having to find a pick. But we have to bring up the past. We have to bring up how the Jade Dragons got here. There's a reason their games have been averaging something like 40 minutes, and it's because of this situation right here. Breaking the base, going in for Phoenixes, has been their Achilles heel. The Jade Dragons have had some struggles. Lazarus, Nika, going for a 3-2 split. They should be able to win that 2v2 in mid pretty handedly, considering how tanky and how much regen they have. But breaking the base is the issue. It's not like Jingwei is doing that much damage with a crit build towards these Phoenixes. Vote is going to have to tank for, I mean, at least step forward and hit a lot of auto attacks to make sure these Phoenixes drop. Maybe that's the reason there's 2 runic bombs on the left side of the map in Mike and Vote's inventory. But only a minute and 30 to go. They have time, but they got to make their push count.
These sieges, I mean, talk about it. That's the way some of their games have ended in phase 1. We'll see what they can do. Lasbro goes in the damage. You called it right on to Pagon. Had the beats. It just comes up way too late to help him out. Genetics gets low. But the Warriors, I should say the Dragons, they don't care about killing off the pile of rocks. Instead, it's just getting the Phoenix. They make sure to pick up left. They use both runic bombs, turn their eyes towards mid, immediately shred that one down. Argus doing the best bodyguard impression he can, creating some space for him. And now it's a right side Phoenix position for the Dragons. And Charlie, we've been talking about their siege being rough. They came in, they knocked down 2.5 so far with ease. Looking for the third. A couple more autos from Vote would do it. Body blocks from Genetics. Make sure that that one stays alive, but barely so. Nika goes in, dash forward onto Panatom with the silence. Phoenix goes down. And this is telling. The Dragons start to back off. Sot tries to stay aggressive. But I don't know if he can really do anything. He's on his own. None of the other Warriors are here.
They certainly can't. Trying to back up is the call. Sot is just sticking around being annoying, and if you can tell, the Oni Warriors are telling you exactly what they want to do, and it's not follow Sot. He is just being annoying. And this is what I'm talking about, Gore. I don't want to sound too down on a pick in all picks and bans, but how can you tell me this, like, Raijin is the top mid laner in the game when you watch that clip? Pagon beads, dash, canceled, dash, canceled, dash, canceled, died. That's what happened to Raijin there. There was follow-up, but Lasper just did it himself. I mean, there was a Darmic Pillars. It's just so annoying that this Thunder Crash can knock it off, and Pagon is 0-5 because of it. That's so many times now where he's like, it's okay, guys. I'll simply dash away. No, the Jade Dragons knew that this Raijin was going to be a top pick, and they went into the picks and bans trying to counter it, and they have done so.
And, you know, it goes back to the interview, actually, with Dardes just yesterday, right? When we were asking him, and he was like, very adamant it's going to be a Raijin Merlin meta. But also, well, while he's having his fun and not playing those gods, that Raijin Charon as well get drafted super high, and suddenly you can do exactly like you said what the Dragons do, which is say, okay, cool, let's ruin that guy's day. They've done that. 0-5-0 versus the 4-0-4. Score not found there for Dardes. Pyromancer was started by the Warriors, dropped by the Warriors, now picked up and finished by the Dragons. Engage Cataclysm on 2 from Genetics, but Sot's already half health. Immediately into the back, and it's on to Pagon. Who would have guessed it? That's where they want their damage. Half health for the mid laner, and it's going to be the 6th death in this game as the Dragons start to surgically remove the Warriors from this fight. Now separated, they take care of Sot. Lasbro going deep, having to choose between Genetics and Panatom as to who he chases down.
This Titan's dead.
Netroid's going back. Oh my god, the minions! The minions have been doing the work the whole time. Netroid goes back. Oh, but you can't do anything about it. Put another one on the counter for the Winions this weekend. The Dragons win the fight and win the game without even having to be there.
I mean, the thing is, Score, we were talking about the siege and how it was so much of an issue. They get 3 Phoenixes off of 1 push, and because it was so early in the game, sometimes you forget 3 Phoenixes were down, right?
Yeah.
The Oni Warriors said, maybe we could step up and fight.